Yes, the Minutemen right here on that Modern Rock Show. You know, so often because of where we are, in the country, we focus primarily on the late 70s punk scene, early 80s punk scene of CBGBs and whatnot. But we're expanding our vistas because while we're aware of the LA punk scene of the early 80s, we don't give it as much time as maybe we should. Well, someone has given it a lot of time because he was there at that time. It's documentary filmmaker Dave Travis, who's just released a new new DVD, although there are complete performances here. You could make a CD out of it, called A History Lesson, Part 1, Punk Rock in Los Angeles in 1984, featuring rare performance footage from the Meat Puppets, the Minutemen, Red Cross, and Twisted Roots. And Dave Travis is with us tonight. And when did you start filming all this stuff? Like back in 83?
From 83 till about 1997. Then I hung it up for a little bit, then came back 10 years later and started digitizing my old footage. And this is the compilation of some of the earlier stuff I shot from. This is all from about a 2-month period in the spring of 1984.
And you've captured what appears to be entire performances.
Yeah, it's all. I would usually tape the whole show, and then on this DVD, it's complete songs, 3 complete songs from the Meat Puppets, Twisted Roots, and Red Cross. And then for the Minutemen, I did that too, but their songs are so short that
Right.
I had to double it to 6 songs.
Did you have any trouble, as far back as 1983, filming bands? Bands were okay with you coming in, setting up video equipment, and shooting?
Yeah, generally bands were okay. I only had like 3 bands tell me not to shoot, which I didn't. Otherwise, people were generally happy to have things captured.
Was it tough to get clearances on these performances? Yeah, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, it's the reason there's these 4 bands. That was out of, like, I started out, the first version I edited, it had 30 bands, and it was 3 hours.
Wow.
That was just putting, the first 30 bands that I shot in a row. But then I had to learn about clearing it, and from then I picked like a top 12 and re-edited the movie, and this time put in the narration. And from then I tried to clear that, and I had to find every single band member, or get them to sign off on it. So out of those 12 bands, I was able to get 4 cleared.
Since you shot from a long period of time, from 1983 to 1997, you said, and now you're shooting today, what would be one of the more bizarre things that you've shot over the years? Or wild?
I shot some interesting things were like Black Flag and the Alley Cats playing at a house party in Lawndale with Henry Rollins, like in the kitchen, like singing to people, coming up to people in the kitchen and singing. Some just trippy shows with, there's a thing called the Dead Hippie Acid Test. There's a band in L.A. called Dead Hippie. I don't know if, do you know about the Worm?
No, tell me.
It was Chuck Dukowski's band before he was in Black Flag, and then he had it concurrently with Black Flag for a while. But their singer was a guy named Simon Smallwood, and he had a band called Dead Hippie. It was like kind of like a weird, I don't know, it's kind of indescribable. It's just like a thing where you'd recognize him from. Was he'd go to like a show, or he'd be singing in a show, and he'd have a shirt like that said, "I killed Sid Vicious."
Right.
But he did a thing called the Dead Hippie Acid Test, where he was trying to recreate the Ken Kesey acid test type thing. And that was with Sky Saxon from the Seeds, Frightwig, DC3, and Red Cross. And that was a pretty trippy show. And another one was a desert show called by Desolation, called the Gila Monster Jamboree, with Sonic Youth and Red Cross and Meat Puppets playing out in the middle of the Mojave Desert.
It says here Part 1, so I'm assuming that this is the first part in a series of DVDs?
Yeah, about 1,000 hours of archives. So this is just the first release. In part it was an experiment to see how it would go. But so far it's going really well, so I'm getting ready to start working on the second one this summer.
Give us an example of, I mean, we mentioned obviously the Meat Puppets, Red Cross, the Minutemen, Twisted Roots, all vintage footage from 1984 on this DVD. Without giving too much away, because obviously you want to generate excitement for Volumes 2 and Volume 3 down the line. But what other bands, you mentioned 1,000 hours, what other bands do you have, a sampling of other bands that are kicking around in the archives?
Probably for sure on the next project I'll probably use Saccharine Trust.
Mm-hmm.
Then I got St. Vitus, DC3, Lawndale, Nip Drivers, a lot of the old like SST, South Bay bands, and then bands like The Gears, then 90s bands like Possum Dixon or the Ringling Sisters.
I was going to say, you've also got interviews on this DVD from the likes of Kurt Kirkwood, Chris Kirkwood. Some of them seem rather recent.
Yeah, the interviews of Kurt and Chris Kirkwood and also of Jeff McDonald were done in 2009 when I was in the process of getting the clearance for the videos. I was lucky enough to be able to interview those guys so they can give their insight into what happened.
And where was the majority of this footage filmed at? What venues?
Different clubs and venues in L.A. The Minutemen were filmed at Olympic Auditorium, which was a place where they did like big punk shows in L.A. from about 83 to 86. Mm-hmm. And it was originally built for the boxing and wrestling for the 1932 Olympics. So it was, like a big boxing ring. And they just have like these crazy punk shows, and that's where the Minutemen was from there, and also from a place called the Café de Grand, which was kind of like equivalent to a CBGB's in the early 80s for L.A. Then the Meat Puppets were filmed at a place called Perkins Palace. It was like an old vaudeville movie theater place that got turned into a condominium complex. Twisted Roots was at a place called the Music Machine in West Los Angeles. That place is now an auto parts shop. Red Cross filmed in Pomona Valley Auditorium in Pomona, which is about an hour east of Los Angeles.
And as you mentioned, a lot of these places are no more. How would you
all the places in this film are no more.
Right.
The Pomona Valley Auditorium and the Olympic Auditorium are now like churches.
How would you describe, I don't know if you follow music today, obviously you were very active in 1984. What is the scene like in Los Angeles now? It's
great. It's still active. It's a lot of the same people from 20, 30 years ago. Now they're just 20 or 30 years older. I'm going to go down and see the Gears and Lethal Weapon are playing on Saturday. There's good shows almost every night of the week. It's going really well if you know where to find it.
Well, once again, I want to mention to everybody, the DVD is called A History Lesson. There's also a website, which is ahistorylesson.com. The DVD, I should point out, is on, what is it, MVD? Well, Historical Records, which is, I'm assuming...
Historical Records is me, but
that's you. MVD is distributing it. And you can actually, probably the easiest thing is for people to just go to ahistorylesson.com. And I watched this. I was fascinated by it. You know, you got full performance footage and then interviews mixed in as well. And it is a history lesson. I would say it's sort of, especially for someone like me here on the East Coast, who, I haven't been on the West Coast since the 70s.
We got one of your New Jersey locals in the video for Twisted Roots. Des Cadena's playing guitar. He's originally from New Jersey. Then he lived out here from the, late 70s to late 90s. But now he's back in New Jersey playing for the Misfits. But in the 1984, he was playing guitar for Twisted Roots.
Right. That's like the Misfits Mach 4 or whatever they're currently doing. Well, very cool, Dave. I'm glad to have you on. And once again, History Lesson Part 1, Punk Rock in Los Angeles in 1984. And again, it's if you're into the Meat Puppets, you, by the way, have a new album out. Red Cross, Minutemen, or Twisted Roots, or all four, even if you're not.
This is Meat Puppets playing stuff off the first record, Meat Puppets 1. So there's not that much footage of those days, and it's interesting to see him play that material.
All right, Dave, thanks a lot. Thanks for coming on the show.